among history's most remarkable figures, Princess Beatrice of the United Kingdom was born in 1857 in Buckingham Palace, London. She was the youngest child of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert. From the beginning, Beatrice was seen as a special child, arriving at a time when her parents had already raised 8 older children. Her birth brought great happiness to Queen Victoria, who referred to her as the dear baby in her journals. Beatrice was born on the 14th of April, and although Queen Victoria had strong views about motherhood and often kept a formal distance from her children, she showed great affection toward Beatrice. The princess quickly became a favorite in the royal household, not only because of her youth, but also due to her kind and gentle nature. Beatrice grew up surrounded by luxury, tradition, and responsibility. As the daughter of a reigning queen and the youngest in the family, her early life was filled with attention, education, and high expectations. While many of her siblings were busy with royal duties or married into other royal families across Europe, Beatrice stayed close to her mother. This early closeness would shape her role for the rest of her life. As a child, she spent her days being tutored, learning music, and observing court life. From her earliest years, it was clear that Beatrice was being prepared not just for royal appearances, but to be a strong supporter of the Queen herself. Princess Beatrice spent her childhood in the care of Queen Victoria, who placed great importance on education and manners. Although Queen Victoria was not very affectionate with most of her children, she made an exception for Beatrice. The young princess quickly became the Queen's favorite and was often kept near her side, even during important meetings and events. Beatrice's education was guided by private tutors and followed a carefully planned schedule. She studied languages, history, literature, geography, and religion. She also received lessons in music, which became one of her strongest talents. From a young age, she played the piano beautifully and often performed at family gatherings. Her lessons were strict but full of variety, and she was expected to maintain high standards like all the children of Queen Victoria. Unlike her brothers and sisters who were encouraged to find their own paths, Beatrice was raised with the understanding that her life would be closely tied to her mother's. She rarely traveled far and remained a central part of Queen Victoria's world. As a result, she grew up in a quiet and controlled environment, surrounded by royal traditions but with little personal freedom. Despite this, Beatrice remained cheerful, gentle, and obedient. She became a source of comfort for the Queen, especially after Prince Albert's death in 1861. Beatrice's calm nature helped her mother through difficult times, and their emotional connection only grew stronger. As Princess Beatrice grew older, her role in Queen Victoria's life became more important. After the death of Prince Albert, in 1861, Queen Victoria entered a long period of mourning and relied heavily on those closest to her. Beatrice, being the youngest and most affectionate of her children, stayed by her side more than anyone else. Over time, she became not only a daughter, but also the Queen's constant companion and trusted helper. By her teenage years, Beatrice had taken on many responsibilities at court. She assisted her mother with daily tasks, stayed with her through official duties, and listened to her concerns. As Queen Victoria's private secretary, Beatrice helped write letters, manage personal documents, and record important information. She worked quietly behind the scenes but had a powerful influence because of her mother's trust. While most young royals looked forward to travel and marriage, Beatrice stayed close to home. Queen Victoria did not want to lose her last daughter to marriage or distance, and Beatrice accepted this role with quiet dedication. Many people admired her loyalty and patience, even though it meant giving up many of her own dreams. Through these years, Beatrice became an expert in royal protocol and helped the Queen handle both personal and public matters. Her calm presence, gentle words, and steady hand earned her the respect of courtiers and visitors alike. As Beatrice reached adulthood, many people expected her to marry, like her brothers and sisters. However, Queen Victoria had different ideas. She did not want to lose Beatrice's companionship and insisted that any future husband must be willing to live with them and support the Queen's daily life. This unusual demand made it difficult for Beatrice to find a suitable match. Several royal men were considered as suitors over the years. One possible match was Prince Louis Napoleon, the son of the French emperor, but he died in battle in 1879. Other suggested suitors were rejected by Queen Victoria, who worried that marriage would take Beatrice away from her. As a result, Beatrice remained unmarried for a long time, despite her royal status. The Royal Marriage Act of 1772 made things more complex. This law required members of the British royal family to get the monarch's permission. Before marrying, Queen Victoria used this rule to control Beatrice's future. Any man who hoped to marry her had to agree to remain close to the Queen and accept her authority in household matters. For many years, Beatrice accepted this fate quietly. She continued her role as her mother's secretary and constant helper. It seemed likely that she would remain single forever, living a quiet and dutiful life beside Queen Victoria. But everything changed when Prince Henry of Battenberg entered her life. In the early 1880s, Princess Beatrice met Prince Henry of Battenberg, a German-born royal officer. He was kind, handsome, and well-liked, and Beatrice fell in love with him. This surprised many people, including Queen Victoria, who had always planned to keep Beatrice by her side. At first, the Queen strongly opposed the idea of marriage, fearing it would take Beatrice away. However, Beatrice and Henry were determined. They convinced Queen Victoria by promising that after marriage they would live with her and continue their support. Finally, the Queen agreed, but only under the condition that Beatrice would remain her full-time companion and Henry would also join court life at Windsor and Osborne. They accepted these terms. The wedding took place on the 23rd of July, in 1885 at St. Mildred's Church on the Isle of Wight. It was a beautiful but simple ceremony, with Queen Victoria giving her blessing. The Queen was emotional throughout the event, both proud and sorrowful, knowing her daughter was starting a new chapter in life. After the wedding, the couple went on a brief honeymoon but returned quickly so they could stay close to Queen Victoria. Their marriage was happy and full of mutual respect. Henry became a part of the royal household and took part in public events and court duties. Beatrice finally experienced married life, though it remained deeply connected to her role as the Queen's companion. After their wedding, Princess Beatrice and Prince Henry of Battenberg settled into married life within the royal household. As promised, they lived with Queen Victoria at Osborne House and Windsor Castle. Their days were filled with a mix of family moments and royal responsibilities. Beatrice continued her work as the Queen's secretary, writing letters and managing documents while also caring for her new husband and growing family. The couple had 4 children: Alexander, Victoria Eugenie, Leopold, and Maurice. Beatrice was a loving and devoted mother who tried to give her children a happy and nurturing home. She balanced her royal duties with family life, ensuring that the children were raised with proper values and education. Despite the strict structure of royal life, Beatrice made sure her children felt cared for. Prince Henry took on some public roles and accompanied Beatrice on official visits, but much of his time was spent supporting the Queen. The family traveled between royal residences and attended important events, always staying close to Queen Victoria. Even though Beatrice had a family of her own, her life remained deeply tied to her mother's. She managed her time with great care, making sure she never neglected her duty to the Queen. This created a life that was busy and full of responsibility, but also filled with love and loyalty. Beatrice's ability to balance her roles as wife, mother, and royal secretary showed her deep commitment to both family and crown. In the early 1890s, Prince Henry wanted to serve in the British military and took part in a campaign in West Africa. Queen Victoria and Beatrice were both worried, but he was determined to go. Sadly, during the expedition in Sierra Leone, Prince Henry fell seriously ill with malaria. He passed away on the 20th of January in 1896 at sea while returning home. The news of his death was a terrible shock to Beatrice. She had deeply loved Henry, and losing him left her heartbroken. Queen Victoria was also saddened, knowing how much her daughter had given up to remain close to her. Beatrice entered a long period of mourning. She wore black, limited her public appearances, and withdrew from social life for a time. Despite her deep sorrow, Beatrice stayed strong for her children and continued her duties beside the Queen. Just as she had supported her mother after the death of Prince Albert, she now carried her own grief while serving the crown. Her strength during this time earned her admiration from many in the court. Even after Henry's death, Beatrice continued to refer to herself as his wife and spoke of him with love and respect. She made sure their children remembered their father fondly and upheld his values. Widowhood changed her life forever, but it also strengthened her sense of duty and made her even more determined to carry on with grace and purpose. After the death of Prince Henry, Princess Beatrice found comfort in focusing on her responsibilities. One of the most important tasks she took on was editing the private journals of her mother, Queen Victoria. The Queen had kept detailed diaries for almost her entire life, writing about her personal thoughts, family events, and important moments in British history. These journals were incredibly valuable, but also very private. Queen Victoria trusted Beatrice more than anyone else and chose her to be the literary executor. This meant Beatrice had the responsibility of preparing the Queen's journals for future publication and historical use. The job was massive. There were hundreds of volumes filled with decades of writing. Beatrice worked on the journals for many years. She read every page and carefully copied them by hand, leaving out sections she believed were too personal or sensitive for the public. She burned the original volumes after copying them, which later caused debate among historians. Some believed this destroyed important historical details, while others praised her for protecting the Queen's privacy. Still, Beatrice completed the task with dedication and love. It became one of the longest and most difficult projects of her life. The edited journals helped future generations understand Queen Victoria's reign and the time in which she lived. Through this work, Beatrice once again showed her loyalty and devotion, not only as a daughter, but also as someone committed to preserving history with care. Following the deaths of both Prince Henry and Queen Victoria, Princess Beatrice continued to serve the royal family and the British public in her later years. Though she no longer held the same daily role at court, she remained an active and respected member of the royal family. Her life was now focused on royal appearances, charitable causes, and supporting the monarchy through her presence and experience. Beatrice became involved in many charitable organizations, especially those connected to health, education, and military support. She served as patron of various hospitals and foundations and took her responsibilities seriously. She attended public events, unveiled memorials, and spoke on behalf of causes close to her heart. Her calm and steady nature made her well-suited for these duties. She was also deeply involved in honoring the memory of her mother and husband. She helped with the creation of memorials and kept their legacies alive through events and public service. Although her public role was quieter than in earlier years, it was still important. As time passed, Beatrice continued to be a symbol of dignity and royal tradition. She offered guidance to younger members of the royal family and remained a figure of stability during changing times. Her lifelong commitment to duty and family earned her deep respect across the country. In her later years, Beatrice showed that service did not end with age or loss. She remained loyal to the crown and the people, quietly making a difference in the lives of many. Princess Beatrice's children grew up surrounded by royal traditions, and their marriages connected them to important dynasties across Europe. Her daughter, Princess Victoria Eugenie, often called Ina, had the most well-known marriage. In 1906, Ina married King Alfonso XIII of Spain. This made Beatrice the mother of a queen, and it connected the British royal family to the Spanish crown. However, the marriage came with challenges. Ina carried a blood condition known as hemophilia, which she inherited from Queen Victoria's side of the family. This condition was passed on to some of her children and caused difficulties in the Spanish royal family. Still, Ina supported her husband and became an active queen, raising their children and working for charity in Spain. Beatrice's eldest son, Alexander, became the Marquis of Carisbrooke. He served in the British military and married Irene Denison, a member of the British nobility. Her other sons, Leopold and Maurice, also served in the army. Sadly, Maurice was killed in action during World War I in 1914, a great sorrow for Beatrice and the entire royal family. Through her children, Beatrice maintained close ties with both British and European royalty. Her family's marriages continued the long tradition of political and social links between royal houses. These connections helped to strengthen alliances and maintain the influence of the royal family in a changing world. Throughout her life, Princess Beatrice received many honors and held several royal titles. As the youngest child of Queen Victoria, she was known as Her Royal Highness the Princess Beatrice from birth. After her marriage to Prince Henry of Battenberg, she became Her Royal Highness Princess Henry of Battenberg, following royal tradition where a wife adopts her husband's title. Beatrice was awarded prestigious royal honors for her service and dedication. She became a Dame Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order and held the Imperial Order of the Crown of India. These honors reflected her long-standing loyalty to the monarchy and her tireless work both in public and behind the scenes. A major change came during World War I, when anti-German feelings were strong in the United Kingdom. In response, King George V, Beatrice's nephew, changed the name of the royal house from the German-sounding House of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha to the House of Windsor in 1917. As part of this change, members of the royal family with German titles were encouraged to give them up. Prince Alexander, Beatrice's son, gave up his German princely title and was granted the British title of Marquis of Carisbrooke. Beatrice herself remained respected and continued to use her British royal titles, representing tradition and unity during a time of national change. These changes reflected the royal family's efforts to stay connected with the British public and distance themselves from foreign influence. Beatrice's position during this transition helped ease the shift and maintain continuity within the monarchy. Princess Beatrice lived a long and dedicated life of royal service. She passed away peacefully on the 26th of October in 1944 at the age of 87. At the time of her death, she was the last surviving child of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert. Her passing marked the end of a generation that had helped shape British history during a time of empire, war, and great change. Beatrice died at Brantridge Park in Sussex, the home of her niece, Princess Alice. Her funeral was quiet and respectful, attended by close family and members of the royal household. She was buried beside her husband, Prince Henry, at St. Mildred's Church on the Isle of Wight, the same place where they had been married many years earlier. Beatrice's legacy lives on in the work she did and the values she upheld. As Queen Victoria's trusted companion and editor of her journals, she helped preserve important historical records. As a mother, she passed on royal connections that shaped Europe's royal families. And as a public figure, she showed how quiet, strength and loyalty could make a lasting difference. Though often seen as a figure in the background, Princess Beatrice played key roles in both royal history and family life. Her quiet devotion, personal sacrifices, and deep sense of duty earned her the admiration of all who knew her story. What do you think about Princess Beatrice's devotion to Queen Victoria and her quiet role in shaping royal history? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating historical stories. Thank you very much for watching.